What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, that's right, it's that time again. One of my favorite times, Star Trek time. So as a huge Star Trek fan, and that is definitely my fandom and my jam, one of the things I love doing is actually doing these reviews with you guys. So I wish, last week we had Baby Know-It-All and she enjoyed doing it. She's just been really busy with work and some other things going on with her, as well as schooling. So unfortunately, she's not gonna be able to join me for this week. We missed last week's episode just because of some technical issues. We'd actually recorded it. The problem is that it was, once you have issues like the microphone and whatnot and everything else messing up, you end up having to just kind of roll through some of those stuff. So we're going to do two reviews today. The first is going to be episode 304, Room for Growth, and episode 305, Reflections. Man, I actually really like this episode. So the basic gist of the episode is that, come to find out, there's a lottery on the ship for the lower decks people that has a quarters available up on deck one. That's where like all the big, everybody's rooms are, the big palatial rooms. You know, the rooms we've seen on Star Trek and every other Star Trek series since the beginning. I don't know though, those rooms, those quarters in Strange New Worlds, I'm telling you, those things are palatial. Anyway, so what they decide to do is they want to try to, they're trying to find a way to work together so that they can ultimately maybe get the opportunity to get their names in that particular lottery and get a chance to have a quarters way up on the coveted deck one. So while on sort of a doing some things in one of the events, Tendi happens to overhear the fact that Delta Shift, who they don't like and apparently doesn't like them, is planning on rigging the entire thing. There's one particular computer console, computer terminal, because in a giant networked ship, why wouldn't there be one place only, where this thing can happen, and they map out where to go on the ship and ultimately get to that end result, with the opportunity being that they're going to be able to input their own names, and it becomes an adventure. This adventure is almost Galaxy Questian in its absurdity.
This episode was badly written!
Meanwhile, the engineers, so the actual episode starts. The episode actually started with the captain being possessed by the spirit of Manuki, which is an alien god spirit thing. And apparently this happens all the time. She's flying through the ship, transforming it into what looks like Aztec type stuff. So in recovery of that, because like the third or fourth time it's happened, the engineers have to work super duper overtime, plus they're going someplace else. All the engineers are overworked, they got bags on their eyes. Speaking as a former chief engineer, I feel your pain very much. The captain believes that the engineers are going to have to relax. If they don't relax, they're going to lose their minds. So she takes them to sort of a relaxation station where they're going to be able to really just kind of do their best. They're given these bracelets. The bracelets turn green when you're relaxed and whatnot, and they're run through their paces. And so the bracelets are always yellow. And so they can't figure out why they can't relax. And finally, the captain, in a rage, because she finds out the engineers worked out an engineering workaround to make their bracelets green, and it really makes her mad, sends her over the edge, and she's like on the verge of her bracelet turns black. So everyone's like, oh boy, we gotta save her. Anyways, so meanwhile, our Mariner, Boimler, and all them they're going through the inner workings of the ship. They find like the sewage plant and the water reclamation and everything else, and they go through this one place, and it's literally going through like sewers. Eventually, they finally make it to where they're gonna go, and they have to wait for a door that will only open for 10 seconds every hour, once an hour.
This episode was badly written!
Okay, so then Delta Shift shows up, and they're like, oh, well, we can totally work this thing out, blah, 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 and they kind of have a bonding moment, and then all of a sudden, you find out one of the Delta Shifters was actually trying to get the door to open. It opens, they rush in, they're like, oh my goodness, you suck! And eventually they decide they're gonna go to the little thing, and they're gonna make themselves they find another way around, they get to the thing, and when they finally get there, come to find out, this lottery is only for one quarters. One. So they're like, well, I'm not gonna go up, we can't go together and this and that. We're not gonna do this. Let's let Delta Shift get split apart, not us. Totally commendable. I'm down, man. You then find out that Delta Shift decides moving out of the lower decks with no privacy is to a room. They split it 4 ways. They split the room with amongst the 4 of them. Delta Shift does. So they're like, why did? Oh, and at this point, the engineers come up with an engineering workaround. They create a machine that actually relaxes the captain and finally gets her out of this like black state or whatever else. And then the lady who runs the place is like, destroy this machine right now. So Rutherford gets back. He finds out that they had the opportunity. He's like, why didn't you guys get the one room? Oh my goodness, I can't believe you didn't do this. Man, why did they do it? Because it's hilarious. But they stuck together. Overall, I really like the episode. Know-it-all index for episode 304 for me. I'm gonna go 7. Yeah, it's 7. It's not bad. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying all these episodes. None of them are blowing my socks off. I'm sure that I'm probably just waiting to throw that big, huge number 10 on our crossover episode with Strange New Worlds. We'll see. I believe it's gonna happen, and when it does, I'll wear my Strange New Worlds uniform. Anyway, so then now, let's go. Episode 305, Reflection. Don't ask me why I had to do I did the whole thing again. I don't know. So Mariner and Boimler work the Starfleet recruitment booth at an alien job fair, while Rutherford challenges himself. So, okay, that's today's episode. I loved the episode, and so I am very much of the mindset that if an episode's, I really liked this episode. I can only tell you I liked it because I felt like this episode typifies why like bold Boimler is on the rise, and I do believe that's the case. So the episode starts with Mariner genuinely upset that she has to work the Starfleet booth. We've actually seen this scene briefly in the trailers where she's like, yeah, join Starfleet, discover the undiscovered country, blah, blah, all those things. And so Ransom hears her complaining and is like, oh, you better be at that booth. And if you're not at that booth, so help me, I'm going to send you to Starbase 80. Those of you playing at home who don't know, Starbase 1 is the Starfleet headquarters place, Starbase around that floats around Earth. Okay. 80 is about as far out as it goes at this point. So nobody wants to work tail into space. Don't nobody want to go there because you ain't getting nothing imported there. If your replicator breaks, you stuck. Anyways, and so they're very much trapped in the booth. Meanwhile, Rutherford has an issue with his implant. It seems he's having nightmares and he can't figure out why. So Tendi decides, hey, you know what I'm going to do? Let me fix this. Oh, you have a memory. You have a backup that's overloading your memory cache. Let me clear it. She clears it out, and next thing you know, he has a weird kind of shock, and suddenly the eye segment goes from its normal light blue to red. And he's talking a little different. He walks out, and he's meeting. It's a totally different character. He suddenly sees his reflection, and he sees the other Boimlers. They immediately think it's got to be an alien, it's got to be a thing, or whatever, something, and they end up eventually tipping off the wrong person, and so Tendi calls a medical emergency. Security and medical are looking for him, and ultimately, when they do catch him, there's a I don't want to spoil every single thing, but at the end of the day, he's rendered unconscious. I believe he is stunned. Is the official word for it. So at the end of the day, what you're stuck with is this character who is very much trying to discover what's happening in his own head. He's in this white mindscape. I think this is their animated version of what we used to see Cisco dealing with when he talked to the prophets. And in that it's sort of a white, and they're like, yeah, of course I'm in the mindscape. What's going on? And it's younger him. No patch. He's real aggressive. He's very emo. But the Rutherford we know, normal Rutherford, is like, I don't understand. Well, how are you? Well, I don't remember you. He doesn't remember him because he come to find out he gets access to a brief glimpse of a memory. He had to dump a bunch of memory in order to get this thing. Come to find out, when whoever it is installed the thing, they said we're gonna make them think this was elective. So, and then the younger personality, Rutherford personality, explains to him, dude, didn't you ever wonder like why this thing kept breaking? It's because your mind knew and backed me up. So come to find out, younger Rutherford used to create racing ships. He would do the Devron run, which is essentially like a sort of a I guess it's kind of like in Star Wars with the Kessel run, in that it's a through the neutral zone, sort of a fast way to go. Anyways, so in their head, come to find out, only one of them is going to be able to go out. The mind can't handle two copies of the same personality. And so Rutherford begins this very internal dialogue. Shift back over to the planet and to the whole Starfleet booth thing. She's trying very hard, and even Boimler's like, "Wow, I'm so shocked you're doing such a you're really giving this effort." He's like, "I don't want to go to Starbase 80." And so people are coming up. She's about to sign someone up, and this archaeologist next door to them, she's like, "Oh yeah, really? You want to join Starfleet? This and that, blah blah blah. I guess you won't. Do you like being turned into a Borg? Because that's going to happen." And it's that kind of thing the whole time. I kind of dug the archaeologist chick. I thought she was fun, and I feel like she's a cool character that I'd like to see come back. And at one point, Mariner makes a really funny joke. She's like, "What are you talking about? You guys are basically just thieves. Look, you're probably here just to steal from the museum. It's right there. No one's looking. You may as well go break in." Blah. Spoilers. That's what the chick's there for. So legit. Anyway, so at some point, the people who are coming by the booth start giving them crap. "Oh, we heard you guys can't leave the booth, this and that, Starfleet, don't want to get in trouble." This one dude has the nerve to grab Boimler's his rank pin. Literally, he's like, "Oh yeah, thanks, so here's your comm pin, blah, blah, blah. Just throw this and that," and he throws it. Boimler loses it. Rage quits. He's flipping tables. He's going around. He's like, "All of you are here because of Starfleet. We want to defend you all from the Klingons, the Borg, the Cardassians." Blah, blah, blah. He's just going off. It's a blow up of it's exquisite. Excellent. Meanwhile, this affords everybody's like, "Is joining Starfleet made that guy confident like that? Oh man, I want to join." And next thing you know, Mariner's this becomes a recruitment technique, and she's getting everyone to sign up. Yay! Back to the inside Rutherford's head. Inside Rutherford's head is one of the most interesting things that is going on, because at the same time, Rutherford is doing his absolute best to not give in. But at the same time, young Rutherford is making very compelling arguments, and finally they agree, okay, we're going to solve this through a good old-fashioned race. Anything in your mind you can make real, make happen. He builds this really cool-looking ship. Rutherford builds a Delta Flyer with the outfits and everything. The same one from the Tom Paris Delta Flyer that Tom Paris built back in Voyager. Very cool, love it. And so they go to race, and they're doing really good. A giant Romulan warbird shows up, and next thing you know, Rutherford's like, "Oh no, I can't believe this and that." He's like, "Tendi, make sure blah, blah, blah." And you see the others are there. Dude, young him is like, "What are you doing? Who said they could show up?" And he's like, "Well, you can make anything happen. You think I'm going to fly a race without my crew?" Right there, you get the defining difference between our Rutherford and young Rutherford. Young Rutherford is angry, and he's got something to prove, and this and that, and there's clearly something going on with the implant installation. They're giving us our first dip of a toe into a deeper storyline for one of the characters, which I'm all about. I feel like the show could only exist in its two-dimensional form so long. It's like Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty could only be classic Rick and Morty adventures so long before you eventually had to get to the current season where you're actually getting some story. So I feel like that's where the Lower Decks is shifting to, and that you're getting a little bit more story. I believe you're going to see development in Boimler. I believe you're going to see development in Tendi. I believe you're going to see development in Rutherford. The only character who I think is going to have an issue is going to be Mariner. I think Mariner's going to end up having to learn how to exist in a world where she can't be mediocre, because even her close friends are excelling. And she's finally met people who she can bond with, and this is gonna have to evolve past Lower Decks at some point. And I think that I don't know what they'll do. I don't know what that next iteration will look like, but I'm here for it. I'm very excited by it. So ultimately, Rutherford ends up losing the race, and the young Rutherford says, he goes, "I remember how we got the implant," and he shows him he was building and experimenting with stuff he shouldn't have messed with. There was a small breach, an explosion, and he was scarred up, and they had to do it. but he still clearly has the memory of someone being like, what happened, blah, 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 this and that. Oh, he blew up, this and that. He's like, oh, we'll put the implant in. Well, what is it going to do? You do hear the line where the guy says, that's okay, we'll make sure he thinks it's elective. So there's a deeper story going on there, and I can't wait to see what happens. Meanwhile, young Rutherford is like, hey, I'm really happy to see you keep those friends. And sure enough, I'm pretty sure he's going to. Eventually, they get back to the ship, and Ransom showed up at the Starfleet table thing. He sees Mariner recruiting everybody. He sees Boimler acting a fool, and we do catch a glimpse of the archaeologist chick running in to steal stuff from the museum. You find out later on she stole I guess the Grand Nagus's scepter was in that museum, and so she stole it back to sell it to him or whatever. But and so again, there's a story that's going to happen there, and I'm in for it, and I'm still in for this whole thing going on with them. So again, very exciting. I think this episode really did impress me. I liked the juggling. I liked the storylines. I liked what we got a little more depth to Rutherford. I'm enjoying the series, and this episode for me was a solid, right up the middle 8. I liked it a lot. So hopefully we get a lot more of this and a lot less of everything else. But comment below. Let me know what you thought, man. There you go. And if knowing is half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. I would really love to hear what you guys have to say. Comment below, let me know what you thought of the episode, and hopefully look forward to seeing Baby Know-It-All again in the near future. Check out our She-Hulk review, which dropped. We're also reviewing Andor for Star Wars, so at the end of the day, we're covering all the bases. Star Trek is my fandom. Mrs. Know-It-All loves Star Wars. That is her fandom, and Baby Know-It-All loves Lower Decks and whatnot, and that's hers. And of course, we're all comic book fans. So, all right, guys, guess what? It's gonna do it for today. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.